Good morning, everyone. Those who are watching us on YouTube and LinkedIn, Facebook, even Instagram. Welcome to the TLC Show. My name is Bamm Hardie, the lifestyle consultant, and I have my second guest here, all the way from Darwin, Australia, Roger Curtis.
Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are.
Yes, good morning, Roger. Wow. The reason why I just want to share with you and everyone who's watching as well, the reason why I wanted to set up this show was, I mean, thanks to COVID-19, it has got me moving, and then everyone's more engaged online as well. I've been trying to help people with health, specifically with fitness, with a little bit of nutrition knowledge on a base level, and a tiny bit of pain management. Because during COVID-19, you can't really go out for a massage. You can't. If you don't buy a piece of equipment like a foam roller or a trigger ball or even a massage gun, then you're basically screwed. And all the stress, and the build up will just get you to be in such pain, right? So I decided to uh, bring up this talk show because I want to speak to experts as well in different expertise. There are even people who are more of an expert than I am. I would say to come and contribute and share their experiences with the whole world. And here you are today. I'm so proud to have you. Um, so again, for those who don't know Roger, I've only known Roger for a short while, but I've been receiving. Um, he never fails to send me a WhatsApp whenever he's coming down to Singapore, and I've always been, too busy to look at the messages. And then, after I've spoken to you, Roger, I've been blown away by your lifestyle, by your knowledge, and I'm sure you can give uh, a lot of advice and good value to the people that are watching today.
The only thing I'm interested in with my clients is their wellness.
Okay.
If I was to give energy to their illness or their injuries, that would be counterproductive to them. So, I'm entirely focused on uh, my client's wellness and on my own wellness as well. I've lived a fairly rugged life and
Yeah, you
been
mentioned.
yeah, so, nearly died 5 times in accidents and massive injuries. So, in recovering from those injuries, I've learnt to take care of myself rather than blindly carry on uh, with injuries. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true, man. So I probably should ask this question like the bloke or the lady that's curious to ask. So the question is, who is Roger Curtis and what does wellness mean to him?
Right. Who is Roger Curtis? Yeah, like I'm 66, almost 67 next month. So, um, but at 66, I'm probably fitter and healthier now than when I was 20. When I was 20, I drank a reasonable amount of alcohol. Um, Only ever smoked 2 cigarettes and didn't like them. So,
Wow.
but but I ate excessive amounts of bread and lots of meat and sugar. I was a sugar addict for many years.
Wow.
But being a sugar addict, there was something in my life that didn't feel sweet enough. So I was looking for that sweetness outside of myself. And when I was able to discover that sweetness inside of me, I have, you know, extremely modified my sugar intake. But
Mm.
yeah, the injuries and things that I've had are massive over the years. More than 60% of my body would be scar tissue. Um,
Wow.
Probably
Unbelievable.
in excess of 10,000 injuries.
Wow.
So there was a time in my life that I didn't take care of myself. I didn't acknowledge the the messages that my body was giving me by creating those injuries. So I
Mm.
created everything that's happened to me. But now, rather than creating injuries, I'm creating wellness within myself. You know, there's still challenges always to come up. So there's more for me to learn. I'll be learning until they put me in a hole in the ground and plant a mango tree on top of me. There'll be no coffin, no burial, just some compost with me and a mango tree to grow on top of me.
Yeah, and what would you do with your organs? Would you donate them as well?
Well, I'm planning to live to 150. If there's anything that's
Same
useful,
here.
they can use them. But yeah, it's and even though planning to live to 150, I'm living every day like it's my last. So I extract a lot of joy out of virtually everything I do.
I love that. Yeah, we had that conversation on the phone, and I think a lot of people, especially in Singapore, I'm from Singapore and I live in the city. I absorb energy from people who are who are stressed. Whenever I go out and have lunch, or with in a past people by, and or I sit around on a table, and I could feel the energy of people who are extremely stressed. And then when I get home, like I mentioned on the first talk show as well, I I I don't know why I feel the stress for nothing. My heart starts beating really fast, and it's crazy. But today is really all about wellness, and we really want to dig uh, um, a little bit deeper, um, about wellness with you. So, um, you're the man that comes to Singapore about 8 times a year, right?
Yes, except
About
for this virus, my passport's getting rusty right now, but it will sort itself out, and I'll be back again.
Yeah. So the curious question is, when you come to Singapore, I'm sure people are curious as well. What do you do with your clients here?
So when somebody comes to see me, I will ask what their injuries or they could be emotional or physical injuries. Um,
Mm.
I'll ask them about them just so I have a reference for what is opposite. So if somebody has a frozen shoulder, I'm instantly working with a shoulder that's free and free of movement or free of restrictions. And whatever it is, I am working with that person's wellness. There's there's no plan whatsoever with the session. It's simply tailored to that person in the moment, and
Mm.
it's yeah. I'm just listening to that person's body because even though we have a conversation, face to face conversation,
Mhm.
there's often uh, stressful or painful or injured parts of the person that they don't even or they're not aware of. So the conversation happens on two levels: as a person to person in the consciousness, but with my heart and my gut, which is the subconscious and the higher consciousness, there's another conversation happening there. And you know, what sometimes I will do is will bring something from their unconscious to their
Mhm.
consciousness. I may, for instance, ask them what their relationship with their mother was like, or
Mm.
anything of a trillion other questions,
So
just
true.
from the sense and the feeling that I have when I'm interacting with their wellness. So,
Yeah, I had talking about relationships. Never had a chance to have a amazing relationship with my dad. Solely because my parents got divorced when I was just 1 year old. I lived a very fearful life. My mom was in helter skelter. She made a lot of mistakes and choices, just trying to raise 3 kids, and I was
mhm.
the youngest of the lot. So when I went to school, I couldn't focus because I keep thinking about my mom being so angry all the time. Um, we kept moving houses. I think we moved over 30 homes, in a short span of maybe 15 years. I grew up in the 80s. I mean, I'm born in the 70s, but grew up in the 80s where there's a lot of gangs and drugs still very active in Singapore. So I couldn't focus in school. My mind was just not in school. I just play, wanted to play sports, and then excel in sports so that I take off my mind off all this stuff. So coming back to the relationship with the dad thing, I wanted to have a relationship with him, but it was the opposite. He was always busy with work. I could only see him maybe once a year to ask him for money for next year's, to buy school bag and books and all that. But felt neglected. So I'm sure that there's some pains in my body that still exist. I have forgiven him. He has passed on just last year. He lived up to 73, I think, 75. But I had to forgive him. I had to forgive him. I was so pissed off with him for a very long time. But I realized that, love is not about expectation. Love is about giving, right? So there you go. Yeah, it's my little
Well,
part of
you
the story.
gave yourself an incredible gift by forgiving your dad. Um, and that if you were able to forgive anybody, and especially yourself too,
Mm.
if you've done something you feel is not right, when you can forgive yourself, they are incredibly healthy, wonderful gifts that you can give to yourself. When you hold on to anger or disappointment or a feeling towards another person, especially your father or your mother, you're actually projecting that onto yourself as well, because when you were conceived, you were a single cell, a sperm from your dad, and an egg, another single cell from your mum. So when those two cells came together, they became 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Now, over the next hour, you're going to produce 120 million cells. But every cell, it just keeps dividing, and half of every cell in your body is connected to your mother, and the other half is connected to your father. So with me, my dad was an alcoholic, and he used to come home and belt my mum, and part of me, my dad was an incredible character as well. So part of me admired him, but there was a part of me, and I can remember this little boy of 6 and 8 years old. When Dad was hitting my mum, there was a rage in there that was wanting to kill him because he was hurting my mum. And when I finally acknowledged that I did hate him and forgave him, my relationship with my dad changed incredibly, and pretty much every other relationship I had in my life. So you know, that
So true.
I never condoned my dad's behaviour, but uh, but forgiving him was allowed an incredible change in the relationship that I had with him, and especially with my children and my wife. So, and virtually every person that I ever come in contact with now, that one little act of forgiveness has transformed, was really transforming for my life. So,
Yeah, that's so true. Just give me a sec. While I was talking about my dad, I had to yeah. So before I couldn't see you anymore, with all this stuff that's happening in my eyes. Just an emotional, yeah, a short emotional hit right there. But anyway, for those of you who are still listening, stay until the end, because there's so much value and stuff that Roger is more than happy to share. um he's only 66, 67. So it's a wealth of experience. You cannot beat experience. No way. No amount of knowledge
look,
can beat experience, right?
incredibly valuable. And I come from a really varied background, farming and engineering, welding and, working with horses and dogs and sheep and cattle. And then I got into permaculture and biodynamics, and
Wow.
Um, yes, and some electrical things. So it doesn't matter who I come in contact with, whether it's a politician or a banker, a plumber or a horse person, or somebody that has a dog. I'm much more able to relate to that person on whatever level that they have, just simply from the vast experiences I've had in my life. So it's really useful to gather skills and to be able to help people as they as you interact with their wellness.
So true what you said. You have this special thing in you where you can actually feel that person. I think a lot of people, like you said, are unconscious of what's happening inside them. So you know, they need someone like you to to come in and say, hey, um, hold on for a second. I think I know what your issue is, and let's get them sorted out, right? So the next question here. Um, I did ask you, and everybody knows how young you are right now. um, Perhaps with yourself, like you said, you feel as fit as you ever were before. How can someone, let's say, living in Singapore or living a very fast-paced life, be inspired to feel and think like you?
Well, I guess it's unconditionally loving yourself would be the
Yeah,
only answer to that. So
I
you know,
agree to that.
when you do that, and like I fall out of that unconditional love momentarily or occasionally,
Hmm.
but falling out of that is important to have another learning experience. But you know, when you can allocate that time to stretch or ride a bike or to start your day by warming it up with stretching. It doesn't matter whether it's qigong, tai chi, yoga. There's a thousand different variations of all of those, probably tens of thousands. But finding something that you can, a gift that you can give to yourself by stretching and warming up your body, and it's like um, a really big investment, in a bank that when you can warm your body up, stretch it, and look after it, and eat reasonable food, eating a little bit of crap every now and again is not all that bad. But eating heaps of McDonald's and drinking lots of high sugar content um, beverages and things like that, they have a pretty devastating effect on you. But yeah, when you unconditionally love yourself, there's there's a real good easy place to exercise or to stretch. Right? Exercise always sounds like work to me, but so the
Mhm.
gift of stretching or playing with my body by stretching it. I happen to practice 18 Buddha hands qigong, and it's just a beautiful gift that I give to myself. It's not hard to do. It's not hard to allocate that time or to go for a ride on my bike and even pick up cans and bottles. That I'm picking up stuff that was going to go into landfill or that was going to pollute a river or the sea.
Mhm.
Um, I do that because I care, and it it doesn't matter whether I'm in Singapore or Bali or Timbuktu. As I'm walking along, I'll pick up a bit of trash and put it in a bin, or it's just part of me, and that because I I treat everywhere I am is like my living room or my dining room or my bedroom. That I like to take care of it and to love it and to look after it.
Yeah, that's so true. That was the question I wanted to ask you um, about you going out cycling and what else do you do. But coming back to when you were talking about people eating, let's we'll talk about Singapore and Roger, I have to say that in Singapore, there are pretty high number of cancer cases here. Uh, I don't know if diabetes has beat cancer in Singapore, but the trend here is because of stress and poor diet. Those are the things that probably major contributors, regardless how much exercise they do. And there's this there's this craziness of bubble tea here. And I mean, you know, and I know how much sugar is being, put into those cups, and they're plastic cups, right? Um, so the I call the bubble tea in Singapore the new Coca-Cola, man. So what do you advise the young people? I see people who are in, teenagers and adults not giving a damn about their health, and it pains me to see them suffer. You know, what kind of advice can you give these people?
Well, it'll come back to that, self love or that unconditional love. People that are looking for, and I was a sugar addict myself, so it's
Same.
when you feel that your life is not sweet enough, you're looking for that sweetness from outside, whether it's
Oh,
bubble tea or Coca Cola or the sweet cakes and things. It's virtually it's as dangerous as heroin. Sugar is.
yep,
It should be a class whatever drug. And it stimulates the same uh, parts in your brain as heroin does, the
yep,
sugar. So it's a really dangerous drug, but it's legal. There's
hmm,
pushes at every 7-Eleven and virtually everywhere you go. But in amongst all those things that you can buy that are full of sugar is some incredible cuisine in Singapore. The wet markets that you can buy the freshly grated coconut and get the coconut water, and you can
exactly.
get some lovely sweet potato leaves or some green leaves and blend that with the sweet potato and papaya. There are some beautiful foods that you can get in Singapore that are really healthy as well. So, lots of vegan and vegetarian places. There is some really excellent food, but it comes from a place of making a change in yourself. Changing your belief. Um, if you feel your life is not sweet enough, you until you change that, you're going to look for sweetness from outside. Um, and the same with anything like cigarettes or they're not going to kill you necessarily, but they're going to make your life pretty miserable when you
Hmm.
when you can't breathe or when you have emphysema or um, they're not healthy, but it's um, it's more your beliefs that are going to kill you than than any particular dis-ease or disease.
I smoked from 17 all the way till 28, and I decided to stop smoking because of sports. I realized that my lungs couldn't perform as well when I smoked, um, with the exception of the Air Jordans, of course. I was playing basketball. With the
Oh, okay.
exception of the Air Jordans, I was
Yeah,
playing basketball back then. Yeah, competitive basketball. And when I smoked, I couldn't, go up and down the court as well as when I don't smoke. So I made the
yeah,
choice. I said, "Well, I just want to quit smoking."
yeah.
But
And a good choice. Well done.
thank you. And what you said is so true about self love. Uh, Probably one of the first times I heard about this. You said people look for sweet things because they don't have that sweetness in their lives, and I think it's so true. Like shopping, right? Women in shopping, they don't get the maybe the love from spouses, or they don't get the love from the things that they do, so they go out there and buy things. They buy things to make them feel better. It's an emotional relationship to, and the action taken. By the way, just want to share with you about uh, bubble tea, and you said coconut, right? So yesterday I blended a smoothie made out of pure coconut water. Of course, we can't get that pure from the coconut. We get it from the boxes. It's pure as they can get. So I've mixed it with some bananas. There's organic rolled oats in there, some chia seeds, popped in a nice mango in there, and a couple of pieces of pineapple. And blended it all. I don't have my protein powder from New Zealand, pure pea protein powder, really amazing stuff. But I made that into a snack, and that's my bubble tea. I have that either post workout drink, or I have that as an in between snack if I'm starving. But please, have everything in moderation. I eat crap as well once in a while. I crave for a pizza once in a while. I crave for a nasty burger, greasy food from Asia. But I don't indulge in that every day. You can't put shit petrol in your car every day and expect it to perform. In relationship to a car, right,
That's
Roger?
exactly right. Yeah, it's the fuel that you're putting into your body, and if you can put fuel in there that's as unprocessed as you can possibly get it, it your body has some work to do to process that. When you put highly refined foods in there, so in your smoothie you've got mango, pineapple, and something
Bananas,
else. Pardon?
bananas.
Bananas. Okay, all three of those are really high in sugar. So there's a banana that you can get in Singapore. It's called a Dhaka family. It's either a red or a
Oh,
brown Dhaka, which is uh, very similar in a low sugar content like the cooking bananas are.
oh,
The
interesting.
yeah. So if you look at maybe replacing that mango with papaya, again, it's lower in sugar.
Yeah.
There's, there's there's all sorts of devious ways we can get that sugar into us. So, and they were mistakes that I made using pineapple and mango in particular that were quite high in sugar. So, but as you evolve and you can wean yourself off those high sugar content things, um, yeah, your body is going to respond and give you lots more energy and yeah, so, and things like your practice of your qigong or your tai chi, it it builds. Every time you're pushing out, you're expelling chi and you're harvesting that chi back in, and as
Yeah.
you're coming towards yourself. So they're really good practices for playing with energy.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'll definitely make the adjustments. Um, I kind of justify that I can consume all those, some of the fruits with high in sugar because my workouts are pretty intense sometimes. So
Yeah,
perhaps those who are not so active, who work out like maybe 3, 4, 5 times a week, uh, you know, yeah, Roger is right. Should cut down on some of the fruits that are high in sugar so that you can get more energy throughout the day. We talk about the spike of foods, right? In Singapore, when they eat their white rice and go back to the office and their food coma, that's all insulin created in the body that people are not aware about. So
yeah.
yeah. Oh, I'm not sure if people know your daily routine. So what's a Roger daily routine like in this
So
in this day and age?
generally up at 3:30, half an hour of qigong.
3:30.
Uh,
Mark Wahlberg and Roger Curtis wakes up
3:30
about the same
a.m.
time.
Um, if I get up at 4, I still like to do half an hour of qigong before, just to warm my body up before I ride my bike. So 3 hours riding my bike, towing a trailer that holds 1,000 cans and bottles and plastic. So it's empty when I leave. Um,
Wow.
Yes, the morning before last, I brought 500 home and I brought 770 home this morning. So
So,
it's reasonably heavy to pull by the time I get. I've got a few little hills here, but it's reasonably flat. But it's a good workout for me, and I help keep stuff out of landfill. Um, then I come back home, maybe another 15 or 20 minutes of qigong to warm down. Breakfast, which is porridge with some berries and some coconut yogurt. I try and avoid anything to do with dairy. Um,
Yeah.
and then I will. My day is incredibly varied. Might be fixing a bike or a mower, or I may have some massage clients. My wife is incredibly talented in the cooking department. I'm not much of a cook.
Lucky
I'm a good
you.
eater, but yeah, I make my own lunch and breakfast. But she does the evening meals, um, and then 7:30 I'll be in the shower. 8:30 I'll be in bed pushing up Z's.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, I'm up around 3:30 in the morning. So, um, but everything I do these days that I used to call work, I now call it play. So I'll get up and I'll play with the qigong, and I'll play with riding my bike, uh, play with the qigong, play making breakfast, play with whatever I'm fixing or doing during the morning. So I play all day, and I go to sleep to play in my dreams. Where coming, I was a workaholic at one time in my life. Thought that working 100 hours a week was quite normal. So that was in my farming and engineering days. So
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you that about who was the Roger back then? What sort of life did he lead, before this time?
yeah, well, a life that took me, even though my family lived with me, I was I sort of mirrored my father's um, workaholicness as well, because my father's father disappeared when he was 2 years of age. We don't know whether we were told by our grandmother that he died, but there's some mystery whether he died or just abandoned my grandmother.
Yeah.
And dad was brought up by a stepfather eventually, who was pretty cruel to him. He would
Wow.
take a whip to him on the farm and things, and he would virtually lent out to the neighbours like a slave, and not paid, and he was pretty mistreated as a child. Although he would have had to have been a really mischievous child too, so he would have been difficult to raise. But the example of interacting with children that he had from his carers and stepfather was pretty bad. And for, I'm guessing that my dad was frequently away from home for extended periods of time for the same reason, because when he was home, he argued and fought with mum and was quite uh, pretty hard because of his alcohol consumption. But I my guess is that he had no idea of how to interact with children or his wife in a healthy way. He had never seen it. He'd never had something to copy. So
Mm.
again, I know I wanted to do things different to my dad, but I surrounded myself by working, 100 hours a week, and being somewhat absent from home, even though I came home to the same house every night, not like my dad. But so all of those things were just things that I'd learned as a child, and um, I'm much more conscious of the decisions that I make, and the relationships that I have, and because I was really fortunate to attract people into my life to teach me or give me an example of um, different ways to do things.
Talking about relationships, um, how long have you been married again?
I was married in '66, so um,
You said
uh,
40 years, right?
44 years, I think.
44 years.
Yeah,
As
coming
long
up
as
45.
I have been living. I'm 45. So you have been married just when I was just a year old, and
Yeah,
stuck with it. Very interesting. We talk about wellness, but however, I think relationships are also part of wellness, right? And
absolutely.
yeah, and in Singapore specifically, with a fast-paced life and high demands of our society and all this stress, relationships have been an issue, and this is not new, Roger. This has been around for perhaps decades, decades. And since COVID 19 happened, there were more cases of domestic violence.
Yeah.
Domestic violence, yeah, because everyone's cooped up at home, and you can't have that separation, and it's been bad. It's been bad until it came out in the press. So we need some advice from you. How do you keep the harmony between couples and family and children? I think we need that.
Well, in every relationship, a disappointment is a gift. When you have a
Mm,
disappointment with a partner or a child, that's that's a place for you to learn. But the the way to do that is to be vulnerable with that other person and to share your feelings. So, in most of our families, being vulnerable is a weakness, but when you really understand the value of it, it's a strength. When you're able to open your heart and share with another person how you feel, that gives them. We think that touching is intimacy, but when you're vulnerable with another person, is you're opening up your heart and you're saying, "This is into me." You see, that's intimacy. So
mm,
it's it's an incredibly powerful thing to be able to do, to be vulnerable with another person and share your inner feelings. But and that's where relationships evolve. That when we can um, put put down those walls and put down that protection that we have, the shields and the armor, and we can let them down and be vulnerable with another person. That's that's when we can get to learn about that other person, and they can get to learn about us. And if you're talking to your children and you're being critical of their mother, or vice versa, if you're a female and you're critical of the father, you've got to remember that half of every cell is connected to each of you, and that if you're criticizing your partner, you're criticizing half that child. And that child may not be conscious of it, but their unconscious is hearing that criticism. Daddy's not good enough, or mummy's gambling, or what, whatever the thing is that you're being critical about.
mm,
It's being critical of half that child. So to take a step back and to look at what your parents taught you about relationships. And my father taught me that women were less valuable than men, because, or boys. Girls are less valuable than boys. And I took that into my relationship. And while I didn't belt my wife like my father did to my mum, I didn't respect my wife as an equal. And that really was harmful to our relationship. But when I come to respect her as an equal, and when I came to understand that leadership is a feminine quality, um, they were incredibly valuable things in my relationship. I was able to move past what my mum and dad taught me. My mum taught me to put up with bad behaviour too, because she put up with my dad's bad behaviour their entire married life. So again, like, I was putting up with unacceptable behaviour from my wife, what I learned from my dad, and I wasn't treating her as an equal um, for all those early years in our relationship. And we got to a place of virtually looking at separation, but I was, I don't know, lucky enough, but no, I was um, valuable enough to attract somebody that could teach me about the cycles of relationship and how they work, and um, it transformed my life again and every relationship with it, because I'm looking at it from a completely different set of eyes to what I used to look at it. I was looking at it from mum and dad's eyes initially, but now I have a completely different look at it. I'm able to run relationship workshops, um, and share those things with people in Canada and Hawaii and Singapore and Indonesia, and wherever I can go. I've been so blessed in my life. I love to share the things that have transformed it. I'm not a teacher. I'm a sharer. Like, because to me, a teacher is a very responsible person, and I don't take. And I'm not a responsible person. I'm not responsible for your wellness or your illness or anything else. But I'm interested in interacting with your wellness. You know, People get off my table and feel incredibly different, or come away from a session and their lives are transformed, but they've transformed their own lives or their own body. I'm like a catalyst.
Mm.
I take I sort of activate a process without being consumed by it. So just taking a little sidestep there, when you said you went to the markets or to have your bubble tea, and there was people with negative energy sitting around and you absorb that, uh, what what makes it stick? Is there a process, or do you have a shield or some armor around you to stop you're getting, whether it's COVID or getting something from another person? But and I used to have that sort of same philosophy that I needed to protect myself.
Mm.
But there was a time I was doing some timeline process, and I realised in that session with a person that me being fearful of getting something from somebody else, or that was holding me back. So from then on, I allowed everything to pass through me. That all that negative energy, all the positive, whatever it is from the person, I just can pass through me. If there's some information in that I need to to listen to as it comes past, I can use that to give some feedback, or even to move energy within the person's body. But my fatigue levels at the end of my day reduced more than 90% when virtually the moment I surrendered to allowing everything to pass through me, rather than to hold on to it, or
Mm.
even to push it away, to block it. That when we're in a place of fear, as I said earlier on, um, it compromises our immune system. And whether that fear of getting COVID-19 or 21 or COVID 56, it it doesn't serve you to be fearful.
So true.
If you're walking close to the edge of a cliff, maybe take a step back. But you do that from um, from looking after yourself rather than fear. So to step away from those things that are fearful for you, and be open for something new to happen.
It's something that I definitely learned along the way as well. With like you said, absorbing the stress from people. It's definitely something in me that I wanted to avoid, and therefore it just it probably got they call it a demon possessed by the stress. I always appreciate the day when it comes. A lot of gratefulness. I thank the world, thank the universe. For those who are spiritual, then they thank their God. For for being alive the next day, and just so what I do in my mornings is I spend the first hour for myself. I I listen to affirmations. I focus on my breathing. I do my stretching, especially after a couple of days of maybe doing videos on some workout videos, and I feel a bit tense. So I do that, and I just live in the moment. I live in nothingness. It's just me and my body and my breath and my mind. The only thing that comes to my mind are ideas. So halfway through a stretch, I'll probably write down some ideas. I mean, over here in Singapore, everybody's so proud of the local food. I'm proud of our local food, although some of it is not from here. It's from Malaysia and Indonesia. but but being proud and eating uh, greasy food and oily food. I want to share with you something because I had two cafes before, and I learned a lot about food and the industry back then. So just for people to understand, when you have a food stall, a shop that sells food, right? And your rent is pretty high. And in Singapore, rents are pretty high here. So I tell the people, I said, when the rents are high, what do you think a store vendor would have to do to save money? Number one, they have to save on the oil. If you go to a food store and they say they cook with olive oil, I think that's bullshit, because that's not economics for them. And I tell people, I say, look, um, people have to survive, so it's either you or them, right? So if you eat out a lot in those places where Singapore likes to say cheap and good, then you have to uh, accept that these people who are trying to survive are having to compromise on certain things. And it's not that they would do it on purpose. They just have the instinct that I need to survive, and I need to make money, pay my rent, pay my electricity bill, pay my staff, pay for my groceries, pay for the aircon or whatever. And if you come in and eat, then welcome to my cafe, restaurant, or food store. But then I also try to tell people, it's always good to prepare most of your meals at home. And the excuse is always no time. And then I say, well, people like everybody has 24 hours. It's how much, it's what you spend in your time, and what you prioritize is more important than just accepting and just living like how everybody else lives, right? So again, for myself, I've not needed to go visit a doctor for the last 10 years. I have fallen ill a couple of times. Maybe the worst was maybe 2 3 days, and then I self remedy. I call it. I remedy myself. I take stuff that I feel that's better for my gut. I know that our body is like a factory, and if the big machine screws up, you have to put the right kind of grease on that machine. So now I go for things that are more whole foods, more high fiber, apple cider vinegar, etc. Lots more water. I avoid coffee and tea altogether. Have more green tea. Again, I'm not as knowledgeable as many nutritionists or practitioners out there, but it helped me. Just the basic stuff, and some remedies that I have in the fridge as well. It helped me, and I heal really fast. But for yourself, Roger, I'm sure you've met clients when you're here in Singapore, right? You come to Singapore, and clients will tell you have this pain or whatsoever in the gut, especially like in the stomach area. um and I'm sure there are usually people who are really busy, working and trying to juggle everything at the same time. How do you What do you do with those clients who specifically says they have a pain in a part of the gut or the stomach? Have you experienced that before?
Yes, it's as you said, it's reasonably common, and
Wow.
it's quite often associated with excessive gas.
Mm.
And the things that produce gas in your body is yeast and sugar.
Mm.
So every carbohydrate that you eat, so your rice and your wheat, it's converted to a sugar. So
Yes.
if you put a crust in your mouth and you just chew it again, for as long as you possibly can, and it becomes a liquid, that will be sweet in your mouth because your saliva is actually converting it from a starch to a sugar, and then that
Mm.
your body can access that energy from it. So yeah, your gut is, or the bacteria in your body outnumber the cells in your body possibly 100 to 1. So
Wow.
you're in numbers of cells in your body or bacteria. The bacteria is 99. There's 99 bacteria for every single cell in your body. You have
Wow.
anything between
Mm.
50 and 100 million, 100 billion cells in
Yeah.
your body. So and you have nearly 99 times more of that in bacteria. So for your they're and they're mostly useful bacteria, but if you're the fuel that you're putting in there is again really high in sugar, it's like putting fire into your body, and some of those bacteria don't cope too well with it, or other bacteria um, that are not really useful for your body will get fueled with that. So if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same result. So when when you have a session with me, if you make no changes at all, you'll more than likely go back to where you were before. But the
Yeah.
moment you make a change, then you can go off in a completely different direction. So it's about recognizing what you're doing that's creating that that feeling in your gut, and making a change to accommodate something else. If you if you don't like what that change is, make another change. You don't have to sign your life in blood to because um, we've talked about it and come to some agreement with it. So yeah, it's more of a making a change, and okay, that's worked. This hasn't. So what else do I need to change to make this better? So yeah, your gut. There's more brain neurons in your gut that's in you
Mm.
that's in your brain. So
Yeah, they
yeah,
say the gut is the second brain, right? So
well, I think it's the first brain.
first
Your
brain.
heart is,
Wow. Okay,
I think
we'll
the
do that
heart is the
then.
second brain, and this one is this is where we make up reasons to blame things or blame other people and
So
excuses.
true.
But the heart and the gut, there's no judgment whatsoever in there. So
Mm.
everything you say and think is listened to by your subconscious and your higher consciousness. So if, for instance, somebody says, "I want to lose weight," everything that you've lost in your life, you go looking for. Whether it's your wallet or your passport or the bus ticket or if you've lost something, you go looking for it. So if you're playing with the subconscious and you're wanting to lose weight, and a bit of it goes, the subconscious and your higher conscious say, "Whoa, it's gone. So we better look for it. Maybe we should find a bit extra just in case it goes again." But if you change your what you're thinking and saying to, I want to shed weight, I want to release weight, there, like you have a team of three consciousnesses all working together. But your languaging and your thinking can have an enormous impact on any result that you're wanting to get,
Yeah.
and that includes It doesn't matter what it is, what injury you have, it will come back to that there's an emotional connection to that injury or feeling that you're not comfortable with or you don't like.
Yeah, so I think, all that we've been talking about so far has so much to do with how we think, be it from a pain in the body, or it's the decision we make on how we eat, or the relationships that we have with our spouses or our partners or our children. Has everything to do with, the emotional level of wellness, and understanding how we react to certain things, and how we live a life of wellness, right? So,
Yeah.
if I haven't thanked you yet, I want to thank you with the tens of thousands of people that are going to watch this in the future as well. You can reach out to Roger through his website, or even through his LinkedIn channel, and we'll talk about that towards the end as well. Interesting question to ask you, so that
Okay.
more people could benefit from that. Um, okay, so from your experience, have you ever treated children as well with certain stresses or bodily pains? And if you have any examples of clients that you've dealt with and your experiences, please share with the people that are watching.
Look, I work with people from the cradle to the grave. I even work
Wow,
with
that's
fertility with couples. We have 140 something children blamed on us around the world. So there are different ways you can increase fertility for individuals and couples. But with children, they are incredible. They will hold tension in their bodies from their birth, and when
from
you're
birth.
able to release that stress from the body, the feedback I have from their teachers and their parents of the children are that the whole character of the child can change when the stress is released from it. The they may have had a headache their entire life, but they did. They're born with it and they don't know any different. So when you bring the body back into alignment and release the stress out of it, it can have a big behavioural change as well as their affecting their schoolwork and their relationship with their siblings and their parents. Autistic children, I was very blessed to work with some autistic children, and the one of the things that we learnt was again with the parents of or the carer of that child that's autistic, if you can release the stress out of that child or the parent or parents, that's instantly transferred to the child too. So if you come and have a session with me, you're going to be benefiting your children,
Mm.
or if you bring your children to me, we can work directly with them too. So now your children are a reflection of you, and if you're holding
Oh yeah.
stress, um, they will express that. If you're holding something on, whether it's um, if you're not expressing the funny side of you, there will be a clown in your children. Or if you're not expressing your anger, your children will express your anger. So on your behalf. So yeah, I just love working with children. Right from newborn babies, I've been really blessed to work with a couple of mums right through from their conception, right through their pregnancy, and within a day, going to the hospital and working with that baby or and the mum again. So, I'm working, turning the baby around or um, interacting with that baby. At the moment I hold them when they're born, they just like they're looking up into your eyes and saying, "Ah, that's you. I remember you." So, yeah,
Amazing.
I do love working with children. And one of the things about children, that they don't need anywhere near as long as adults. They're not conditioned to hold on to their stresses and things, they're often very quick to come back into balance. Where the older you are and the longer you've been holding on to a belief or stress in your body, it can take a little longer compared to children.
Mm. Wow, it's amazing. I mean, I'm not sure if you know that we also do school camps, and we usually reach out to students all over Asia. And I think what you just said is really valuable because at some point, if we have in the future virtual camp, maybe you can come in and just give your 2 cents worth of advice for parents, and maybe relationships, and how their children would react to certain things. So it'll be really honored to have you on board as well.
That would be a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. So the other thing I wanted to mention also is when you come to Singapore, on your website you mentioned that you have massage and body work, right? So I think for the people that are watching, they're probably curious, especially those who are in Singapore, because you fly to Singapore pretty often. So besides the massage, what really goes on in body work for these adults?
But body work sessions are virtually, there's only one thing I do that's virtually the same on every person, and that's other than putting my hands on. And the very first thought I have or is I say thank you to that person's body for guiding me. So, and the next thing I'll generally do is check the length of the person's legs, and that will give me, it will tell me whether the sacrum is in alignment. Your sacrum is the foundation of the structure of your body, and if it's one leg's longer than the other, it means
Mm,
your pelvis or your sacrum is out of alignment. So it doesn't matter how good your massage therapist is, if if that sacrum is out of alignment, it can throw the any repairs or any adjustments you do, it can throw out. So
mm.
virtually that's the only thing that I do that is the same is checking that sacrum, and that bringing that back into alignment is finding an uncomfortable point down along the side of the body that has the longest leg, and then starting at the base of the spine and coming to the top. We call it BMS, as biomagnetic synchronization.
Okay.
Now, whether your leg is 1 centimeter or 112 centimeters, 120 mil difference in length, that little system brings it back into balance. And I have to be frank, I don't know how it works. It just works. And probably 90% of what I do is I can guess how it's working, or but I can't tell you with any concrete um, realization that that's what's happening. It's just that it works. So
Mm.
for me, if it works, that's that's good enough.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
magic, right?
it is. Well, it's like to me, it's like playing with miracles all the time. So
Mm.
just because I can't give you a logical explanation for how it's working or what I'm doing, that it works is far more important to me than anything else that we can come up with. You know, somebody may discover in the future, you know, why things work, but yeah,
For now, it's instinctive, right? For practitioners like
intuitive.
yourself,
Yeah.
and yeah. So for those who don't know what a sacrum is, it is not the piece of bone on your chest. That's your sternum. Uh, a sacrum, if I'm wrong, please correct me, Roger. Is the piece of bone that is at the bottom of your spine. That's right, probably right after the L5, the lumbar spine 5. Is that correct?
Yes, well, it would include some of those lumbar vertebrae as well. The only thing that's below it is your coccyx, which
Cossack's,
is
yeah.
which is your prehensile tail, and even that little bone has a very important function in your body. That little
Mm.
bone is the pump for your cranial sacral fluid, and
Wow.
lots of us have had injuries to that bone that can come through falling on your butt, and
Mm.
it can come through childbirth too, or horse injuries and falling down and landing on your butt. So that particular piece of bone, everything is important. So, but lots of things have a connection considerable distance away. So your coccyx is pumping the cranial sacral fluid around your cranium, and it's releasing the
Mm.
stress from your cranial plates. So
Amazing.
uh, things like migraines are very often associated with an injury to the coccyx. So to look beyond where that injury is, to look way beyond that, to maybe where it's anchored or where its origin is really important if you're going to get something done without lots of delays. You're getting to the seed of the problem very quickly rather than fluffing around at
Mm.
where it's coming out.
Yeah, that's so true. I think when when we when we do another session with you on this talk show, maybe we can talk about sexual relationship and people who are um, basically just talk about sex because I feel that you know in Singapore the impotency level is pretty high as well among men. Men have lost their libido somehow. I'm sure it's related to diet because I was from the fitness and healthy food industry, so I kind of know there's a relationship there as well. Stress is another uh, factor that contributes to this success of or bad stuff that's happening in them. And we definitely want to do that when we have you back on the show. That will be amazing, and I'm
That'll be
sure
a
you can
pleasure.
give a lot of advice on that as well.
That's within the scope of my experiences. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from that because over here, as you know, everybody just talk about only mostly three things, not in order. One is food. Talk about food all the time in Singapore. We talk about work all the time, and we talk about money all the time. So always tell people, look, you need your health uh, to support your wealth. I mean, if you want to go for money, go for it, guys. But at least have, when you drive a fast car, and if you want to drive fast, go for it. But you need to take care of your engine, and you need to take care of all the parts that are related to the engine, even your door. If your door pops out and you're driving fast, you might fly out. You know what I mean?
yes,
But every part of your body, which is always tell people about cars, right? Relationship to cars, you need to take care of it. If you want to go fast, then you need a car with a strong engine and everything else that supports it. But if you want to slow down, then that's good. Uh, but again, if you want to go for wealth without your health, you might end up just paying it all back with all the hard work that you put in. Is that right, Roger?
that's quite true. Like if anybody that's lived in a cold country knows that it's essential to warm up your motor before you drive it off. Otherwise, you get excessive wear. And it's
Mhm.
still, a relevant thing, even in a warm place like Darwin or Singapore. We should let the car warm up before we start to use it. And the same thing, if you can warm your body up before you start to use it, even warm it up before you go for a walk in the morning, do some stretches and get it ready. It's going to perform far better and more efficiently, and it's not going to consume so much fuel, and it's going to run smoother if you look after it and give it a service. Go and have a massage, um, and put good fuel into it. Everything we can in our body we can relate to a car. We have a, a, a pump. That's our
Hmm.
heart. It's pumping
Yeah.
that fuel all around your body, and we have hydraulics. Every time we pump blood into a muscle, it gets shorter, and
Yeah.
that lifts an arm, and it's all relevant to mechanics. So, but you know, with our bodies, we have that addition to wisdom and knowledge or yeah, wisdom and intuition and all sorts of things
Yeah.
that we can play. And your body is talking to you. It's having a conversation with you at all times. If there's an injury or an illness, it's saying, "Will you look at this?" Or whether if it's diabetes, it's saying, "Why, why are you not feeling um, that your life is sweet enough? What needs to happen here for you to feel sweet enough by look without needing it from somewhere else?" So yeah, it's when you stop and listen to your body, there's a
Hmm.
fantastic conversation, and the way it's talking is either illness or wellness or a neutral, or it's that's there, or because that illness could be an injury, but um, and it will give you it will give you a gift by being well and healing. Or there is a neutral in between, but that if something is happening in your body, or it's your body is having a conversation with you, and
Yeah.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
works
It's
both
so true.
ways.
It's so true. So from what you just said, um, people really need to number one, listen to their bodies, because people are living such fast-paced lives. They don't really take a step back, like you said earlier as well, and listen to their bodies. I do listen to my body quite a bit. I ignore it sometimes, but I listen to it more actively in the last couple of years. But also, how we talk to it, right, Roger? Self affirmation. Like a lot of people here, I hear say, "Oh, I'm stressed," means you just told yourself that, or you said, "I'll always be fat," or I will never be this and that. I will never be muscular. I will never be what. And all this self talk is to me is rancid, because it's just that emotional language that you talk to yourself. And I think a lot of people who are listening, if you're doing that, I think it's time for you to reverse engineer your thought processes. When you've been listening to Roger, and he's always been talking about the language about wellness, how you actually build that relationship within yourself, so that you can live a life of change, and a far better life and a happier life, right? We're not here to tell you that you need to flip over a new leaf overnight, but everything starts from that one step ahead. None of us got to our point overnight as well. It took us many years to achieve all that in terms of wisdom and how we take care of our bodies and our minds. But if you're struggling right now, we implore you to have a quiet time to decide on the choices you want to make from today onwards. And that's why we have guests like Roger to come in to share his experiences with you. um, I could share a few things here and there, but definitely today it's all about Roger. And we definitely are so appreciative and so grateful to have Roger in the house today. And by the way, he's not in Singapore. Yeah, he's in he's in Darwin right now. In his which part of the house are you at right now?
Little dining room attached to the kitchen, and this is my office desk. I'm sitting
Love
at.
it. It looks very
It's
breezy there. So
yeah,
good with
I
the
can hear
trees outside.
I can hear the chimes in the thing outside, and I have a little water pump that's a solar pump, and the
Wow.
water's running outside. And we have a lovely organic garden here, so
Wow,
there's
beautiful, man.
passion fruit and papaya and sweet potato and tomatoes and rocket and all sorts of things growing in the garden. And
Is it possible to grow kale there as well? One or two?
Kale is more of a colder region.
Ah,
It's
okay.
more of a temperate. Um, but I've got kangkong,
Wow.
sweet leaf, which pacuk manis, or katu in Indonesian. Um, yeah, there's all sorts of stuff growing in the garden here, so it's a
So
fun thing to do.
I'm sure. So when we visit you in Darwin in your home, let's do
Yeah,
a little cook-off, So yeah, we'd definitely love to, visit you there and if
it'll
you
be a
have some
pleasure.
stuff in the garden. Wow, that's like a dream come true, man. How
If,
amazing. How amazing.
if your listeners are interested, there's a book. One of the books that has transformed my life is
Hmm.
um, called The Fifth Agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Okay.
It's on our website in the books, amongst others. But
Hmm.
the fifth agreement is question every belief that you have, and you question it with your heart or your gut rather than your intellect. So, but he's very famous for writing a book called the Four Agreements. But and
Okay.
they're in that book as well. It's a it's a transformational book, and it's really to question those beliefs. And you know,
Hmm.
my dad believed that girls were less valuable than the boys, and it's quite a an Asian or a Chinese belief as well.
Hmm.
But when you realise that for the first 6 weeks of your life, every person on this planet was a female, and then at 6 weeks there's a can be another chromosome added to the mix, and the clitoris turns into a penis, and the
Hmm.
vaginal lips turn into the scrotum, and the ovaries become the testes. You know, we're the similar sex. We're not the opposite sex. So
Hmm.
you know the definition or the difference is used to separate people and control people. That
Yeah.
so if we can be more in harmony, you know, every male has got a feminine side and every female has got a masculine side. We produce the female hormones and they can produce the masculine hormones. And it's if you're in balance, you can move from one to the other. You don't have to be this this angry male or this compliant female or whatever the pattern is that where you've come from. So you can make a change, and the to yeah, change is really important if you want to grow. If you want to stay stuck. But
Yeah.
if you want to grow, look at making changes, and those can be tiny little changes. Pick up your toothbrush with your least dominant hand, or
Yeah.
your razor, or uh, change your knife and fork over, or use your chopsticks in your least dominant hand.
Yeah.
You know, you'll be doing a great gift to yourself because you're activating new neural pathways in your brain every time you learn a new skill. So yeah, there's lots of things to play with, and yeah, don't take life too seriously.
Hmm. It's a good
You
one.
can
It's definitely a good one.
lots of joy to be had.
Exactly. I think people are too absorbed by environments here. Um, Very valuable advice. A lot of I tell people the same thing as well. You need to find joy in whatever you do. And in fact, I even told this to my mom some years back. I said, "Mom, you complaining all the time." I said, "You know what you need to do? You need to find your happiness. If you find your happiness, you could really live every day so joyful." all the people that are just bringing you down, just just don't be around them. Start from there. Start from people that are out there, and start from your inside. Start from your keep learning. I think it's learning. When you said the book, guys, really, read that book. I'm sure it's a very, very good book. How I changed my life was, I'm more of an auditory person, so I listen more than I read. I think it's a habit I had since I was young. No excuse, but I read more now. Um, I stumbled upon Louis Hay.
Louise Hay, yes.
Louis Hay.
So, if you look up diabetes with Louise Hay, there'll be some reference to sweetness there, I'm sure.
Mm,
Now that was a fantastic book. You know, I think she's right in more than 90% of her connections. The if you've got a issue with your hips, it's
mm,
if it's the right hip, is it? Are you expressing your joy with the masculine, or if it's a left hip, are you expressing your joy with the feminine? Your knees and your elbows are about fear, and your body is always having this conversation with you. So yeah,
amazing.
Louise Hay is Heal Your Life is a really good book.
Yeah.
She would be in amongst our book list, I would think, on our
Mm,
website. But there's some good books there.
yeah. So definitely we'll add a few more resources on the on the write up on this YouTube channel. I would definitely encourage those who have been watching so far to really contact Roger, be it through his website or whichever contact that we can share with you. And you know, I never believed that I needed a mentor, or I needed someone to help me with something. But everybody needs somebody else to help them with something. You know,
We do.
yeah. But it's always good to just humble down and just ask someone for help if you feel that you need it. Just don't fight your battles all by yourself. We need people like Roger in our lives as well, because
And I need to give back to myself. Like
yeah.
I need help, or and that's being an incredibly independent person was was something difficult for me to ask for help. But now I just do it because when I face that fear of not being this invulnerable person, when I need help, and I try and have a massage session myself each week. And with all this lockdown business, I've been doing remote sessions with people. So if people, want to, that's something that I do offer as well. I have always
Okay.
offered it, but I sort of prefer the face to face. But um, you know, our thoughts are transmitted instantly anywhere in the world. So um, the the remote stuff works as well.
We in Singapore would definitely be excited to catch up with you. For those who are um, now so eager to already contact Roger and quickly find out how you can get help, and some of the experiences Roger has to give for you. Um, but Roger, this question is probably what people may be asking, which is, what would you say or give advice to the people who cannot get your help directly through direct contact, or even they're just too busy? What can they do to live a life of wellness?
To look at making a change in their lives, because, as I said before, if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same result. But if you make a change, even a small change, and sit in a different chair at your meal table, um, observe how you wash yourself in the shower, and pick up the soap with your other hand. If you go to pick it up with your left, pick it up with your right, or vice versa. And when you get out of the shower, watch which leg you step out with, and step out with the other one. And even if you've got to step back into the shower and then consciously step out with another one. When you're drying yourself, watch how you do it. You'll do it exactly the same way that every time. So observe and then make that and do it differently. So yeah, just to make some changes in your life that can have a big flow on effect to all sorts of other changes. Little changes is like a snowball at the top of the mountain. It becomes an avalanche by the time it gets to the bottom. So that's if you want a different result, you've got to make a change. You can't do the same thing and expect to change without doing something different. We're restricted by all sorts of rules, whether they're from religious or family background, and a lot of those rules are really invalid. Again, that comes back to that fifth agreement: question every belief. So it's where I would love to wear odd socks to break the rules, to wear things that are like I'm wearing a pink shirt for a bloke. Yeah, that's somewhat socially, well, it's much more acceptable these days. But again, that challenges that belief that females are weak and that men are strong. Just to get out and have some mischief and have some fun. You can do what you're doing now and enjoy it if you want to. Or if you're not enjoying it, that means you should be doing something else. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, whether it's interacting with your family or with your work, it should be a joy and not a burden.
We all need more wisdom. We need help. We need to release ourselves. We need to have a lot of self love. We need to listen to our bodies. We need to read that book that Roger recommended. Roger, we would love to have you in Singapore. I would give you a big hug when you're here. That will probably be the first, but never the last. But on our show, we definitely want to have you back. Thank you so much for being on the TLC show. You will never see the last of us, but play it back and you'll learn a lot of tips and wisdom from Roger.
Thanks, Bamm, and I look forward to interacting with the wellness of anybody that connects with me and yourself when I get to Singapore next time.
Thank you, Roger, again. We'll see you again on the next TLC show. Thank you, Roger. Have a great day, everyone, and take care.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Bye.
Bye bye.